Three. All right. Welcome to another CEO Wisdom podcast with legend Mario Nawfal with us today. He is founder at IBC Group and host and founder, I guess, at the largest Twitter space, which I follow every now and then. The guy is humongous on Twitter, has a huge following, had Elon on and a bunch of very famous people. So really honored to have him on. Mario, can you tell us a bit more about yourself and tell us about IBC and that Twitter space?
Yeah, man, I got into business about a decade ago, launched an e-commerce business called Fruity, which still exists today around the world. I got into crypto in 2017, launched IBC, which is now one of the biggest incubators and marketing agencies and investors in the space. Still active despite the bear market, big believer in crypto. And then started the Roundtable, which is the big show, the biggest show on Twitter now, on X now. And that's a big focus of mine, where we do shows on news, politics, AI, crypto, finance, sports, soccer, football, whatever you want to call it, NFL, everything. And we're very heavy on X, big believers on X, and haven't even diversified to other platforms. Full focus is on X.
You and I are somewhat alike ambitions level wise. I think, yeah, you out executed me so far, but why are you built that way?
All right, so there's two ways to determine if someone is built in a certain way, or whether I like what part of me is my own doing versus my environment. I think in my case, a lot of it is my own doing, because my environment has been always pretty shit. My own doing is my obsession in self-development. Like we were just talking before this. Like I'm like, bro, you told me how's Dubai? I'm like, I don't get out of the house other than my house, the clinic, 7 days a week. I might every few weeks go just on a wild party to get it out of my system, but otherwise 7 days a week, house, clinic, house, clinic. When I say clinic, it's biohacking. It's focusing on delaying aging as much as I can, to hopefully get to a stage where I could reverse aging before my life ends in my lifetime. So, and before that, my obsession was, we talked about my old obsession, which was martial arts. We talked about my recent and kind of ongoing obsession, which is dancing. It's like everything I do is self-development. I've never in my life, not even once, just sat there with friends shooting the shits or chatting or having a beer and watching the game or going to a movie and just chilling. It's never been me, not as far as I remember, never, not even high school. And it's not me now. It's just I'm obsessed in progress. I'm obsessed in momentum, and it's kind of become part of my DNA, which is a good thing for business. When it comes to happiness, it's a different discussion.
Yeah. I think I'm happy though. Like I'm obsessed with accomplishment, but I think it scales better with happiness inside the mix. I call it serotonin and endorphins and dopamine and so forth. So biohacking wise, what is your precise number in terms of age? Do you think you will extinguish from a natural cause in this life?
I don't know. I don't know. Look, Brian Johnson, which I'm sure you know, he's kind of blown up recently. You know, he makes anyone that's hopeful is probably good to listen to him. It's gonna be very difficult to get to it in our lifetime. It's just so difficult to optimize for the perfect sleep, for the perfect diet, just for all the right supplements, and to experiment with all these things. But it's very possible. So hopefully I get there. I'm trying my best. I still got to work on my sleep. I'm going to follow his blueprint. And I work with others. David Sinclair is to me the best person in the system, and I work with him. And there's a lot of other leaders, Brian Johnson, etc. That not Brian Johnson, sorry, Ben Greenfield and others, that are great role models. So it's just what you realize. I was just talking to one of the biggest investors in the anti-aging space about 2 hours ago. What you realize is that there's some people that focus on what they can do now, which is not that much, but it's still a fair bit. And there's others that focus on what we will be able to do. So like from an trying to develop technology quickly enough to get to a stage soon in our lifetime where we do something that has some massive impact, like one thing, one treatment that can delay aging by half or something.
Right. I think stem cells could potentially be that. As a background, my first company was the best nootropic in Canada. That was 7 years ago. I have the Longevity Wisdom Pod, had Aubrey de Grey on, having Brian on pretty soon. And I want to spend 25% of my time nowadays into some kind of biotech. I'm curious though, on your side, you're pretty intense guy, and that caused a lot of stress, right? Like when you do things differently, a lot of people will hate you for it. How do you deal with that stress so that it doesn't affect your longevity?
Usually, I've been asked that question a lot, and usually the answer is like, no, I'm pretty good at dealing with it until 2 months ago. So 2 months ago is the peak, the worst period of my life, 2, 3 months ago, whenever the mutiny happened, the Russian mutiny. So that's when I had a just full onslaught of attacks when I was right after I covered the Russian mutiny because I just got so much attention. And I had a big hit piece by a top news outlet done on me with zero evidence, false claims that were debunked. But I just realized that you could never be ready. If you want to do something, and I always think about Elon, talked about him earlier. I always think about Elon, like the amount of stress he goes to. That must eat away part of your life. Like I remember waking up with anxiety, which I've never had in my life. My heart rate, variable heart rate is heart rate variable. HRV was, I'm sure, was just terrible. I wasn't even looking at my metrics anymore. Um, so like it's like all the things we do could be reversed by just the stresses of life or of business. I try to avoid them, but then it's a tough thing because I have to build a business, I have to build a show, I have to build a brand. And to do that while maintaining health is an almost impossible balance. But I try my best.
It is. You're really brave, into what you're attempting. And it's so easy to hate. I often talk about the crabs in the bucket syndrome. And even you might hate on me at some point. I might hate on you. We all have our days. We all have our imbalances. We're all humans. It's just that when you spend most of your time trying to destroy someone, I think it gets kind of toxic. You might have your falls every now and then and be like, oh, he does this or she does that, and maybe they could do better that way. Suggest them a solution at least. At what point does it become toxic to hate?
Man, I never hate. Like I was just talking to a friend of mine, and I rarely drink. I started drinking about a year ago just to get to have fun. I don't want to miss out on life. And I do it every once in a while. I had my a few days ago. I had a crazy night, and when I drink, I just become one of the friendliest people in the world. Like people on the street said hi to them and make friendships with taxi drivers and shop owners and stuff. Like it's just so fucking silly to waste any energy in life to hate. And I know it just sounds kumbaya cheesy. Well, in business, you could be ruthless. I'm a ruthless business person, but I don't hate any competitor. I don't hate anyone that's ruthless back to me. I don't hate people that hate me ever. And I have people that hate me, despise me, talk shit about me. I still bring them up on stage, but I'm strategic. So I might do things in a certain way that benefits the business. I might seem pretty aggressive. I'm an aggressive business person, but never hate, never attack, never try to harm somebody. And anyone that does, I feel sorry for them because they must be going through a lot themselves.
Hate is tough to resolve. I've had these hit pieces on myself, and back in the days, my philosophy was just judoka, then back to positivity. Like you're doing, I invite my haters on my show as well. I talk to them. I try to keep my shit together because my natural reflex is cortisol and testosterone, and me, it's always fight. It's never flight. So nowadays, I mean, I tolerate it and I understand where it comes from, although I don't like publicly hate, although you'll see a tweet of myself complaining every now and then. But at your stage, with that scale, with that much followers on your Twitter spaces, it's obvious that you're gonna get it. And Twitter is known to be this toxic space. So why did you decide to double down on that one? And tell us about the scale that you've hit at this point.
Yeah, so in terms of X or Twitter being toxic, I don't know. I don't consume a lot of content. Like I don't check other platforms. I never check Instagram. Just check a few DMs here and there. don't use Facebook, don't use TikTok. I just watch short videos. Like I don't really consume other people's content. And on X, I didn't consume much content till recently. So I think the algorithm feeds you the content you want to see. So I'm guessing people that see hateful content, well, you got to self-reflect on why the algorithm knows you better than you know yourself. So it reminds me of the story of the father that was really upset at Walmart or whoever it was because they were sending a brochure with kids products to his daughter. He's like, hey, my daughter's, why are you sending all this stuff, maternal stuff for my daughter? She's not pregnant. They're like, sir, she might be, and it turns out she was pregnant. Like the algorithm knows you better than you know yourself. And the reason Walmart knew is because she was buying I don't know what, pregnancy tests or something,
Condoms
condoms. I
or
don't know what it
not?
was. She was buying something, and then their system knew that she's pregnant. Um, so same thing when it comes to X's Twitter's algorithm. Now, in terms of why I'm focusing so heavily on X, just love what they're doing. Like we thought so much. We've had so many debates internally on whether we should expand to Rumble. We've spoken to the guys there, big fan of what Chris is doing. Expand to YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, which makes sense. Like diversification is business 101. But I just believe in what Elon and his team, the X team, what they're building, what Linda's doing, and the whole concept of the everything app and the speed of innovation. Like just yesterday, they launched live video. Today, sorry, this morning. Um, the speed of innovation is insane. And we decided to just go all in, and it's gone well so far for us. I have almost 1 million followers, but more importantly, the reach. Tens of millions a week, hundreds of millions a month, and um, and then with the spaces that reach on a daily basis, hundreds of thousands. So it's paid off well so far, and I also feel like I owe it to the platform and the team. The platform played a role in getting me here. And now I'll reciprocate to Elon and the team by doing my best to bring value to the platform, bring good content to the platform. And I think slowly more and more creators will migrate, as Tucker Carlson did, and the All In podcast and all them. I think we'll see more and more creators migrate to X. And another reason is censorship. Like we saw what happened with Russell Brand, love him, hate him, whatever you think of the allegations. YouTube is not the one that should decide to demonetize someone before they have their time in court. The government should not be, Parliament in the UK should not be sending requests to social media platforms to deplatform or demonetize a creator just based on allegations. And all platforms abide by those requests. There's only two left, Rumble and X, and obviously X Twitter is much bigger. And that's another reason that creators should take it very seriously.
So how are you reinventing media and all of that? And I think you forgot to mention bullshit journalism and all of that.
So I'll just give you an example. When we covered the Russian Mutiny, which is the biggest space I've ever done, and the same applies to others, whether it's FTX or Silicon Valley Bank or the Trump indictment or whatever it is. But the biggest one has been the Russian Mutiny. Everyone was in our space, including the media, listening to it. And we were just sharing the news raw as it came. So we were the first to break Prigozhin's announcement that he's going to be stopping the mutiny. It broke on our space. Why? Because we were watching his Telegram group, and there wasn't all these different layers to go through before making that announcement. We were announcing the progress of his army into Russia and on the borders, and the developments throughout the way. Like one of their planes, one of the Russian Air Force planes just got shot down. We announced that. We say, hey, it wasn't verified, but okay, now it's verified. So like all happening live on there. With obviously my team in the background just getting all the data and sending it through. So the ability to just rock up a space and just be able to share these developments, something that doesn't exist. It's like a live news coverage, but it doesn't have the hierarchy of mainstream media, which is then plagued by biases and self-interests. But we keep it as raw as possible without crossing the line of misinformation, where we can't verify something. We have to always be careful. So it's like there's misinformation is there, and there's the media's there where everything has to be controlled. We're somewhere in the middle.
Okay. And I see speed and scale, definitely real time announcing and so forth. I had a CEO of a media company that is currently doing that in the geopolitics field, which is quite interesting. What's your Elon master plan on that one?
Yeah, so Elon is working on pushing different channels on X. Like, you've got the video, you've got the live video, you've got pre-recorded video, you've got the Twitter spaces, you've got the tweets, you've got the short video forms, and the speed in which information is shared is crazy. But then there's a downside to it. Is that misinformation becomes becomes very prevalent. So how do you prevent misinformation? Well, the current solution that most social media platforms offer is they remove or shadow ban, whatever term you want to use, that false information. But then you've got the power to censor centralized among these big guys, among these executives, which is then could be corrupted. And we've seen a Russell Brand example I could give. So what's another solution? Well, Elon did come up with community notes. He's democratized, he's decentralized censorship. And I think this is one of the biggest innovations we've seen in social media. I think it's not getting enough attention, is that now people are calling out misinformation. And I think this system has got to be scaled and allow the people to themselves determine what's true and what's not, rather than have a small number of people do it, because then that becomes a totalitarian ecosystem.
Do you believe in the wisdom of crowds, or do you think it should be a technocracy or a mix of both? And how could political systems nowadays could be plaguing this world?
So obviously it's somewhere in the middle. Being binary, like people are perfect and we could tell the truth. I don't think we are. I think we just got too many flaws as a species. And then on the other one, you know, having a very small number of people make those decisions, human nature, you'll see the worst of it eventually. So somewhere in the middle, that's what a democracy is. A democracy itself is an experiment. Is that how many people can determine it? Community notes is an experiment that's in progress right now. The whole concept of blockchain and crypto is all an experiment of decentralization. And the experiment seems to be going well so far. Community notes has been doing a pretty good job. Um, Obviously, room for improvement, and that's ongoing. But anyone that's calling for just a complete abolishment of any censorship, this does not understand human nature.
So how do you pick your generals, and how do you make sure that they can interview stars and big egos like Elon?
Yeah, so it's a tough one. Like when we have a big guest, like we had Imran Khan, the Pakistani Prime Minister, we were interviewing him as the mutiny started. And as soon as we ended the interview, we started the mutiny space. It's pretty insane day. But when you interview people like Hunter Biden or Bill Ackman, Mark Cuban, etc., just it's a very difficult thing. A lot of preparation is needed, and we have to be very careful on who the panel is. We have a great list of hosts, but when there's these names on, I'll personally be hosting along with them. But it becomes very casual. Like it's not video; it's just pure audio. So the feeling is like genuinely like you're having a call with those people. It's beautiful. Like imagine Elon just jumps into one of our spaces and he's on a plane. And one of the times he came in, he's on a plane just changing. I think it was changing his clothes because he could zip up his pants. He's changing his clothes, preparing for a board meeting, a Tesla board meeting. That's something you don't get. Like when you organize for an interview, when you do a show, when you go on news, like when I go on TV, there's all that preparation. They have to wait, you have to jump on, they ask you, tuck, 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 and then you end. And it's just not as authentic as like picking up the phone and chatting to someone, which is what Twitter Spaces is. And it's just a very special medium.
Wild last question. Right before I had Peter Voss on the pod. He's an AGI guy. What's your feeling on AI and AGI? Do you think AGI will happen before 7 years, and how will that affect your world and this human landscape out there?
Whether it will happen in the next 7 years, I'm the worst person to ask that. All I can tell you is that the human brain tends to overestimate the short-term impact of innovation and underestimate the long-term potential. And that happens with everything. I've said it back in crypto days, and now I'm saying it with AI. I think AI is it's like but they're sort of saying, number one, I think AI in the long term is going to change our world in ways we cannot even fathom at the moment. But in the short term, it's going to take time. It's not going to be anything major. It's going to make our life easier in some ways. But another thing is that innovation just moving faster every time. It's like every cycle is faster than the last. If you look at the Industrial Revolution and compare that to the internet, Web 1, if you compare the internet compared to the mobile phone revolution, how quickly the iPhone changed everything. Compare that to crypto and how quickly crypto grew and how many wallets grew faster than the internet. And now AI is faster than crypto. The ChatGPT is the most fastest downloaded app ever in history. And we're seeing that in motion now. I think it will move a lot quicker than previous innovations, but I think the impact it will have on our world, it's just hard to imagine. It's hard to imagine any form of intelligence that beats human intelligence, and how that world look like could be either exciting, scary, or both. I'm in the middle.
The very last question, mindset wise, how do you do good? How do you do it consistently? And how do you stay patient?
So doing good is pretty easy. It's just like when you understand human nature, you understand that doing good is the best thing you could do. Just read How to Win Friends and Influence People. You'll get it. Do it consistently. That's a tough one. Like genuinely do it consistently through the ups and downs. By the way, doing good doesn't mean just helping people. Is, when you build a business, you have to create value for people to pay you. So doing good means creating value, which is the foundation of any business. Doing consistently is very difficult. It used to be easy for me before because I had that energy, but now I've just have so many bruises on my face. It's been such a tough few years that I don't have that same energy for consistency. So I have to kind of push myself, and kind of links to biohacking, taking care of my health, sleeping well, etc. That allows me to be consistent and I try to make sure I understand what makes me happy. Being around the people that I like, doing what I like, that keeps my happiness level up, and my happiness and energy level is up. I'm able to be consistent, and then do good, do it consistently, be patient. Being patient is the toughest one. How to do it, I have no idea. No idea. Just kind of read the stories of how long it took others to build out incredible businesses. And then maybe that will show you that things do take time. But despite that, you'll probably struggle as I am with being patient.
I have a quick one for the audience. I believe in simple mindset shift, and I call it stretch it time, So when you find yourself in the grind, in crunch time, in hard times, in chaos, you just take that time and you stretch it, and you try to think, will this matter in 10 years from now?
Exactly.
Most of the time, it never does matter. So very cool motto right there. Very rememberable. So good job on that. Where can we find out more about you, Mario?
Yeah, Twitter is probably the best place to follow me. So just Google my name, Mario Nawfal, and you can see me there, and you can enjoy the shows. And whenever there's major breaking news, you'll definitely see us there covering it. So yeah, it's the best place to check me, and I appreciate you having me, man.
My pleasure. That was another CEO Wisdom Podcast.com.
Cool, bro. Thank you. I know you have a call.